Just imagine a debate between Dr. Jaishankar and Dr. Shashi Tharoor, both articulating India's foreign affairs policy and the viewers deciding. That is the ideal democracy. Imagine Raghu Ram Rajan if he decides to come back and serve India and if he has an Indian passport, and Nirmala Sitharaman talking about the economy, or Sachin Pilot and Amit Shah ji talking about home ministry, or Milind Deora and Piyush Goyal talking about commerce.
How big is Twitter, or what was formerly known as Twitter, now X, in your world?
So-called intellectualism. We are going to be, X is going to... Yeah, listen, if you see X videos, it doesn't sound very cool. I'm telling you, it doesn't sound. X videos. So they're going to say that, listen, Ranveer and Tehseen, X video. This is not a cool conversation because I'm trying to contest an election. Ranveer, you're spoiling my chances.
We've been doing political conversations for the last couple of months on TRS. And I'm very aware that one of the criticisms for our political podcast is that people think we are very right-leaning, even though I keep saying that we're always trying to be centrist. Tehseen Poonawalla is one of the most respected political commentators and analysts in our country today. In today's podcast, he spoke about what he believes are the biggest national issues, the biggest political issues in our country today from a centrist perspective. I'm going to bring all sorts of people from all walks of life and all ends of the political spectrum on the show. We've begun by getting Tehseen Poonawalla on TRS. It's a fun, long, detailed, but also super enlightening political conversation. He's going to be back soon on the show, but enjoy this introductory episode. Tehseen P, my man.
How are you doing, buddy?
How are you, bro?
Fabulous, and loving it that I'm here on your podcast. Thank you for having me.
No, it's our honor. Man, I have been looking forward to this conversation very intensely since it's been scheduled. Honestly, I'm at a stage in my life where I'm trying to learn about the world of politics from the experts. I don't believe the news. I don't believe a lot of the content I see on YouTube. I also believe, like as we were talking about on the outside, that YouTube has kind of become a podcasting platform.
Yeah.
The reason for that is audiences want raw conversations.
True.
So that's what I want to serve them today, a very raw conversation with you. I'm also going to start off this conversation by saying that I perceive you as a centrist in a very strong way. There's a lot of people who would perceive you as so-called left-wing. Because you have been critical of the Modi government. You've called it out. And at the same time, the reason I feel you're centrist is because you also know the positives of the government and you highlight it vocally. I think our country is in need of more centrists in general and centrist-oriented conversation, bro.
I absolutely agree. And I think what India requires is centrist, like you said. So I have a theory. I call them the left loonies. So I'm absolutely, of course, I'm against the present union government, the BJP government. So they are the right, but I also think the left loonies are very bad. So my theory is the left loonies and the rowdy right are exactly the same. And I call it the horseshoe theory. So the horseshoe theory is, as far away as the two think they are from each other, they're actually very close like a horseshoe to each other. And they want to cancel each other out. So, this whole cancel culture that's come in with the left loonies, I even call that out. I think India needs is sane, sensible, centrist voice. And that's what our country is all about. Not since the last 75 years, but even as a culture, we've always been very centrist as a nature, as a land. So I think that's important.
Yeah. We're going to be highlighting both the sides very intensely here. What I would like to say before we actually head into political conversation is a documentary that really shaped up how I look at the world of politics. Right. Documentary is called The Social Dilemma. Because all of us are so governed by our social media algorithms today. And maybe I'm biased as a social media professional. But the stuff you see on your Instagram, on your Twitter, heavily dictates what you think about your country, your country's government, what it's doing right, what it's doing wrong. There is a word in English called echo chambers.
Correct.
Would you like to explain what echo chambers are?
So an echo chamber, in my opinion, is, again, like I said, the rowdy right, the loony left. They have their own ecosystems. And in this ecosystem, they're the echo chamber. So this side only wants to believe that the present government can do nothing wrong. The other side wants to believe that everything is wrong with our country. Nothing can be right. And let me take your example for that. The amount of cancellation I saw with you or the trolling about you, I think it was ridiculous. So you're a guy, young guy, doing a podcast, and I think it's fabulous. You're getting people to come in from different shades of life. You don't claim to be an expert. You claim to learn. And I think we are here to have a conversation. But this cancel culture, I think that's cancerous for our country, and both sides need to chill a bit.
Yeah. I'm sorry I'm going so slowly into this conversation. My intention with these podcasts is to actually help teenagers. Because I feel if you can talk at the level of a teenager, then you're addressing the entire crowd.
True.
And we'll go to the depths of political conversation as this conversation moves forward. Right. So an echo chambers, basically imagine you have 4 friends and all 4 friends say, yeah, Manchester United is shit, Manchester United is shit. And then you actually start believing Manchester United is
Absolutely. That's what it is. So you will have a group thinking that this is the best and the other group thinks this is wrong. And there is no building a bridge. And that is what an echo chamber is. That's the ecosystem. You create an ecosystem where you want to believe, or everyone around you wants to believe the exact same thing. That's also very dangerous, especially for teenagers, because there's no diversity in thought. There is no challenging an opinion. And I think that is important because teenagers should critically analyze. And when you're in an ecosystem or in an echo chamber, there is no analyzing the thought.
Yeah. Through the podcast, I've learned that if you truly want to have a sharp political opinion, try listening to the side or the arguments that actually piss you off.
Correct.
Like if something is emotionally troubling you or if something is logically troubling you, at least try hearing them out.
Yeah.
I also believe the world is becoming more centrist because of this core thought.
Yeah.
Now coming back to social dilemma, what does a social media company want you to do? So say Facebook, say X. Both these companies want you to spend more time on the platform. Therefore, the algorithms are wired to show you what you wish to see.
Exactly.
You usually wish to see whatever validates your own thoughts and beliefs.
Correct.
And if people have very strong opinions against the government, they will usually be shown the stuff
that
which is
content comes
anti-government.
on the timeline.
Yeah. So you're basically building a digital echo chamber for yourself.
True.
And this is what actually strengthens that strong opinion you have, and then you can't listen to the other side.
Absolutely. But I'm fine with that. But I'll tell you where the problem comes in. When political parties start believing that echo chamber or that ecosystem is exactly what the country is, and they don't want to look outside that. That is problematic. Secondly, when you're part of an ecosystem or an echo chamber and you start crossing the line or trolling or getting abusive without wanting to have a conversation. So I may believe X is bad. I believe this government is not the best for the country. But at least I can have a conversation about it with somebody in a sane manner and we can argue on our points of view. I think that is what's required. What's happened is the camps are, and it's not just in politics. Look at it in sports. Look at it in the film industry. It's so divided. It's so polarized. The other day on X, which was then Twitter, I saw this entire fight between 2 cricketers. I think Virat Kohli and there was this other cricketer. I'm not very good with the new generation. They're fans and they were all at each other and they were both Indian cricketers. So I think this entire polarization has become so massive that you just want to be in your comfort zone. I think comfort zone is the word. You don't want to explore out of it.
Yeah. Okay. I noticed this as a media professional, even with the world of television, with a significant portion of the world of journalism. I saw that people are heavily biased in their opinion. So again, they'd either be on the extreme right or the extreme left.
True.
And there were very few people who were having centristy conversations. So I remember when I was publicly saying that I'm a centrist, or I used to say that I'm apolitical, which I agree was a mistake. It's important to have a political opinion as a young professional in this country. I'm a centrist now. And I noticed that even that pisses off people.
And I get trolled. So people go like, why don't you take a side? But I am against the government, but I am a centrist. And if something is, and if I can't get the fence sitters, so you're a centrist, how do I get you to understand my point of view on an issue you may not agree with? Unless I don't have a conversation with you. Abusing you, canceling you out does not work. I can't be in my ecosystem or my echo chamber and say, look, I'm going to cancel Ranveer and I'm not going to go on his show. I must have a conversation with you, even if I feel your opinion differs from me. Isn't that what made this country so great? And our leaders of the past, they disagreed with each other. And we will come to that. They vehemently disagreed with each other on a number of issues. But they were respectful, they heard each other out, and they would have these phenomenal conversations that shaped our country and that shaped our democracy. Counter it to, and I'm not a big fan of Pakistan or China, two countries that are not democracies. And look at how their leadership is versus what our leadership was. So I think we should take that as an inspiration.
Yeah, okay. Now that we set context, let's dive deep into the political conversation. One, tell me what was bad about my political podcast. Very straight up. I want to know what sucked about it. And I have my own opinions about what sucked. And please be brutal. I'm totally open to it. The second part of the question is that one thing that I've come to realize after studying the world of national politics is that both the BJP and the Congress have extremely strong marketing strategies.
Yeah.
And those marketing strategies are used to actually drive national narrative through social media.
Correct.
So again, the Congress will capture the one on the left side of that horseshoe magnet, and the BJP will capture the one on the right side of the horseshoe magnet. And they have very distinct strategies. I've figured this for sure. Am I wrong in thinking this way? Do you agree with me that there's a lot of marketing and therefore very often propaganda at play from both sides?
I think there's propaganda at play definitely from the government side, for sure. Simply because I think the government wants to sort of put its narrative out. And I think that's fair. That's not a bad word. Propaganda isn't a bad word.
Yeah.
I think the government wants to put its piece outside, and therefore it reached out to people like you. Look, why did the government reach out to you? They reached out to you because you simply have the numbers and they wanted a new audience to come to know. So I think that's fine.
I got 6 million views on Dr. Jaishankar's podcast. What is 6 million compared to a nation of 1.2 billion plus?
But that 6 million will critically decide 2024. So many constituencies will be close fought. And if they could get even 500 of those people to come and vote, or even 1,000, it makes a big difference in a close election. I know of people who've lost an election with one vote. So even if you've converted one person, and here you're talking about 6 million, why not? And ultimately, it's not just about 6 million who are watching. It's also what spread. 6 million is who watched your podcast, but there were also people who saw it on social media. It went viral. There were conversations. So I think, and I know you got a lot of criticism from people that why are ministers talking to you? I think it's fine if you have the numbers, if they want to reach out, if it's a new audience, I think that's great. You should do it. And that's a great medium and should be explored. What I think you could have done better was I think you could have been asked slightly more critical questions. But again, you're not claiming to be a journalist. You're doing a podcast. You asked questions, you asked follow-up questions, and that's fine. Slightly more critical questions, slightly more in depth. Perhaps that could have been.
I do regret not going in depth with the politicians. In saying that, I think my strategy at the start was, hey, this is a big opportunity for me as a podcasting professional that I'll get to enter this world of politics. I don't claim to know too much about the world of politics other than what I see on social media and the news. I'm not a journalist. It's not my subject. It's not something I research about.
And you haven't claimed to be one.
Yeah. Never claimed to be one either. Yeah. Also, I just thought that, by revealing the human side of the politician, because over a 1 hour conversation or 2 hour conversation, people's human sides really come out.
True.
Then why don't you really let the viewer decide if they like this person or not?
Correct.
I don't care about what they are putting out. I did try cross-questioning people in some moments, but one thing I've noticed about national politics conversations versus any of the other conversations I've had, be it cricket, be it films, be it history, culture, spirituality, all these conversations happen on a very long-term timeline level where they talk about the last 10 years, last 20 years. National politics, they keep highlighting what's happened in the last month.
True.
It's kind of boring also to really kind of then go into that and critique them, etc.
And try to get into the depth of it.
Yeah.
So I agree with that, but I still feel a little bit more critical questions, especially with regards to foreign policy, etc., could have come out. But then again, you're not a journalist. And I thought the podcast with Dr. Jaishankar, because you mentioned it, was very nice. It showed a side of Dr. Jaishankar, who, in my opinion, I think, as foreign minister, on a lot of grounds has done good work. I'm critical of him on some grounds, but on a lot of grounds, he has done good work. And again, this is me being, I am anti-BJP. But I think his outreach to, for example, the Islamic world, who have been traditional friends of India, I'm talking about the Modi government, I think it's been phenomenal. And I think that's what India requires. And these were traditional friends of India, whether it's Egypt, whether it's the Middle East. So I think that those are good stands that he's taken. Some things, and if I'm going to push it, I think that he could have toned down a bit on the whole buying oil from Russia, because now we are in a situation with Russia. Russia doesn't want the Indian rupees. And we haven't got an exception from the US to pay in dollars. So now we'll have to pay them in Chinese currency, which is an enemy nation. And we've already paid them 10% in Chinese currency. So some of it, this government needs to tone down their bravado, not go about tom-tomming it before it's done. Because now Russia's come to India and said, look, we don't need your rupees. What do we do with it? We don't really want to buy your products. We want Chinese currency. So now India is going to sell her dollars to buy enemy nations or not a hostile nation's currency and pay for Russian oil. Something that Pakistan is doing. So I think little of that should tone down. But with the Middle Eastern countries, with the Islamic countries, phenomenal outreach of the Modi government. And I want to congratulate them for that. It's very good.
I mean, what I did get as a professional is just professional clout that, okay, now you've also entered this domain. But
you're criticized for that.
Yeah.
So a lot of journalists were, and I saw this on X, were saying that, look, why are ministers giving an interview to you rather than giving it to critical media houses or to critical journalists? And my counter to that is, why not you? Okay, and I'm going to be very frank, because look, if you have 6 million viewers who are watching your podcast, dedicated viewers, and I'm a politician, I would want to reach out to a new audience. The media in any case is carrying me or is talking about my policy or whatever that I'm doing. I would like to reach out to a new audience. So why not you? So this idea of why a podcaster, I think is an irrelevant, if I may go, a stupid question. Even with regards to media, isn't media biased? Both sides. They are. They also have their biases. I know anchors who come with a fixed mindset, a fixed bias. So why are they above scrutiny then? So if you are, let's assume you're a BJP ka dalla, why aren't they either side ka? So that shouldn't be the criteria. I think the criticism of you also with a lot of professionals was that you got it and they didn't. I think that was part of it.
Yeah, maybe that's the undercurrent.
That was the undercurrent. I can say that for a fact.
Yeah, I'm trying to take nothing away from the years they've spent on their journalism careers, when I do have respect for the world of journalism. I have lost respect for some of the top journalists because technically you guys are thought leaders, and instead of kind of drawing out centrist narratives, or at least trying to be a centrist, you are stuck on one of the extreme ends and all your opinions are coming out of that extreme end. You're viewing the real world with that bias of what the social media algorithms are showing you.
Yeah.
So I don't have respect for you as a human. But in saying that, anyone who tries seeing the other side of the game, be it a right person trying to see the left side or vice versa, I have tremendous respect.
Yeah, पहले एक मुझे बताना है, India में ना there's no right and left. Let's be very clear.
Yeah, it's pro and anti-Modi.
Pro and anti. There's no right and left. I'm going to make this as simple for the college people. The BJP, in my opinion, is economically left. It's not economically right.
Break that down.
So many of the BJP's policies, economic policies, are actually socialist policies. They aren't absolute free market champions. I mean, just a couple of days ago, whenever this podcast comes out, they decided to ban look, we're going to ban export of rice. Now, in a free market, now you can agree on the policies, domestic policies, etc., inflation, and I agree. But in a truly free market, government shouldn't be controlling these things. They are controlling oil prices, for example. So I think so many other things that the government does, the BJP, it's such a left government in that sense. They haven't really gone completely economically right. They're not absolutely capitalist. And for me, actually, that's a problem from both sides, because I am a centrist. Socially, I'm left of the center, but economically, I'm right of the center. I do believe that markets should be free. I do believe governments should not control markets. So I think the BJP is as left as anybody else.
I have to ask you for a breakdown of the Modi government at this point. It has been a slight fault of mine and maybe even my production team, taking nothing away from them. Again, young team trying to just get better. That we've primarily got people who are right-leaning. And I would argue that you are left-leaning, at least in the public's eye. Yeah. Which is why I'm sending that question your way. What have the last 9 years been like from your eyes?
It's been a mixture, but I think more, we could have achieved a lot more with the kind of majority that the Prime Minister had. We could have achieved so much more. I think when the history of India would be written down 20 years later, India would have missed a decade under this Prime Minister for simple reasons that there was so much of strife that was created that was not needed to be created.
What do you mean by strife?
What I mean by strife is on certain amount of policies, there was a general fanning of polarization that created a Hindu-Muslim divide, that created other divides, which, in my opinion, benefits the BJP electorally. The BJP benefits from polarization. And I'm not saying that the left does not play to it. I'm using the word left for myself for simple analogy. They do play to it, but it benefits the BJP. And I often ask this on TV, and I'm going to say this again. Why is it that every time there is anger in any of the states, or there is some sort of a riot or tension, the other side of it is always BJP supporters? What's happening right now in Haryana? The other side is BJP supporters. What's happening in West Bengal? BJP supporters. The other side, Kerala, West Bengal, BJP supporters. So Uttar Pradesh, the other side is BJP supporters. Why is the one common element in every fight BJP supporters? Now you can argue, as they argue, that listen, we are the nationalists, we are this, we're standing up for what's right. But the country doesn't need strife, because when you have strife in the country, economy will never grow. For economy to grow, you need rule of law and you need peace. That's when the economy grows. Now, again, their argument is the economy has grown. We are the 5th largest economy. I get all of that. But it hasn't grown to the potential it should have grown. And I think that's where it's the lost decade. Of course, they tom on how they've grown. And I'm not denying that India has not grown as an economy. It could have grown a lot more. I think that narrative is lost.
Okay. You know, a right-leaning person, and I've spoken to many, would argue that, what about the previous government? Why didn't we grow then? Or, how was that?
But we did in UPA 1 and 2. The growth in UPA 1 and 2 was more than the growth in NDA 1 and 2.
And how does a teenager quantify that growth?
Well, for statistics and data, your per capita income in UPA, so per capita income is the income of every Indian, grew a lot more in UPA versus what it grew in NDA. So yes, the economy grew in NDA, but both the GDP growth, which is the growth of your economy, in UPA, the size of your economy, and the per capita growth was higher in UPA 1 and 2 versus in NDA 1 and 2. But even if you were to leave those data and statistics aside, the fact of the matter is that in UPA 1 and 2, in my opinion, it was there was less strife, as a result of which the opportunities in India, at that point I felt, were a lot. People felt that India would continue to emerge in all sectors. Today, I feel that while India, the growth story is happening, it's only happening, and these are the government numbers, in the service sector. Manufacturing growth is not very high at this moment. They haven't been able to sort of bring in a policy on Web 3.0, on blockchain. The government isn't talking about AI. And I think we're missing out on these opportunities in this strife. And I don't see any of the big companies that have really actually entered the Indian market off recently in the last few years. There is FDI that's come in. They haven't really come in and set up, except for Apple, which had come in actually prior to NDA, but they've boosted up production. So I do feel that this government did lose out on some opportunities.
Okay.
Manufacturing shifted to Vietnam. Everyone's moving to Vietnam. And I just want to add one more thing. Every Indian above rupees 50 crores, who has an asset above 50 crores or 70 crores, is buying a house in Dubai. Everyone. Just go to Dubai. We take a flight tomorrow to Dubai. You'll find at least 10 people you and I know.
That is true.
Why? And that answers, why have so many Indians given up their passport? See, bro, between us, giving up your passport is the most difficult thing, right? Our identity is Indian. I would never give up my passport. Over 2 lakh Indians gave up their passport in the last year. Why? So it's a very difficult thing. Why are people going to countries like America, Australia, where tax is much higher? You can say, okay, Dubai, there's a tax benefit. Why America and Australia, where tax is higher? So why are people giving up their citizenship? Why are HNIs leaving India? I think that's a lost opportunity.
You tell me, why are they giving up their citizenship?
In my opinion, there are 2 or 3 things. One is, yes, there is economic growth in India. Again, I won't deny it, but that is concentrated in the hands of the few. And Joe Biden said an amazing thing. He said that monopoly equals extortion. What young Indians want is free market, where your show works on the basis of its merit, not because of who your dad is, not because Big Daddy, the government, is pushing your show. It should work on merit. Young Indians celebrate merit. There is this perception that Indians are against business. No, Indians are not against business. Indians celebrate first generation entrepreneurs. Indians don't like government favoritism. So a lot of people who have potential, the HNIs, they're leaving our country and going because they are not getting the kind of jobs of their merit. Why is, again, let's go back to Dubai. Everyone, doctors, your top actors, your film people, everyone are getting a house in Dubai, getting a base in Dubai. Why? It's not a democracy. Yet everyone, because the quality of life. Strife isn't there. So strife is one thing. People don't like strife. The second thing I think where people have lost out or people are moving out is, and that takes it further from strife, is this narrative that the government can go after you. Some of these laws are very, very draconian for entrepreneurs. And that's where I come back to where I think this government is slightly controlling or left. For example, the Enforcement Directorate, they've amended these laws. They've made it so draconian. You're a criminal until you prove yourself innocent. You're going after businessmen. Now forget politicians. Leave politicians aside. Businessmen are being trapped in ED. Business should be easy in, easy out. If I don't make if I make a bona fide mistake, I should be allowed to pay my liabilities and leave. If you're going to trap me under ED, if ED is going to go after me for a bona fide mistake, that's not fair. People will not take risk. Your GST today is criminalized. Which businessman will take risk? Entrepreneurs take risks. Coming to you, you took a risk, right? Starting a podcast. Imagine if there was a gun on your head. If you make a mistake, you'll go to jail. You wouldn't do it. You need an environment that's free of taking risk. Third, where is our research and development happening? I go back to our IT sector. We became, in Web 2.0, the world leaders because we created that infrastructure. Where is the infrastructure today for Web 3.0? Simply shouting Apple is manufacturing in India, that's great. But where is Web 3.0? What is this government's policy? I would go ahead to say we should have a separate ministry for artificial intelligence. Where is it? What is their policy? They don't even, and you cannot make this stuff up. I was on a TV debate with somebody who's a supporter of the government. And this was when the whole crypto thing was happening. The government, as usual, was confused. One day they were banning it, one day they were allowing it. And this guy actually tells me crypto mining is actually soil mining. And you see, you don't even have a policy. And the only answer was, aapko sarkar pe bharosa nahi hai. You need to, how will you, if you have Web 3.0, if you want to create world-class data centers, you cannot cut off the internet. India has the highest internet cut down in the world. Where are your policies in sync with what's happening in the world? India has more internet cuts than Ukraine, which is facing a war. Is that fair on young India? So I think these are critical questions we need to answer and ask the government.
Okay. As a podcaster, I'm just receiving inputs from you guys. Like you guys and your knowledge levels are like way above mine, but I can retain things. I would argue that your centrist left, Anand Ranganathan is centrist right. Those circles that overlap. What's that thing called? Venn diagram.
Yeah.
The Venn diagram of overlap is that both of you all criticize that the government runs too many businesses.
Too many.
And it shouldn't be in the world of business. The equivalent for a common person to understand this is Doordarshan. Do you watch Doordarshan for sports? No, you watch Star Sports for sports.
Exactly.
Now, apply that to multiple industries. Anand Ranganathan argues that this is where corruption happens as well. When you ask a BJP politician about the same thing, my gut is that they will say, no, this is because the Congress was running the country for so long and they established these systems. Now they're established and it'll take some time to get rid of them.
तो 10 साल से क्या कर रहे थे? तो बोल देते कि हम वही करेंगे जो कांग्रेस कर रही थी, फिर देखते आपको 300 सीट मिलती. You promised a new India, right? You promised a new India. You should have delivered.
But there's too much money to be made in those businesses.
Absolutely.
For any government in power, not just the BJP.
Yeah, and there is power, and more importantly, it's about adjusting people in positions, right? इसको director बना दो, इसको ये position दे दो, घर मिल जाता है, गाड़ी मिल जाती है, बंगला मिल जाता है, travel हो जाता है. So you adjust your people in it.
Okay.
Some of the people in this PSU, and again, both sides, but look at some of them who have been put in PSUs as directors, absolute jokers. What do they know about that industry? So government is also using it as a free distribution. That is not being a welfare state. That is cronyism. Welfare state is, if a poor child is born, he or she should get protein. He or she should get the same medical treatment that my kid gets. That's a welfare state. Why should my kid, and I love my child, but why should he have more opportunities than somebody else's child? Just because he's born to me? That is, welfare should be equal for all. Not making somebody a director in a company. There's a difference in the two.
Okay. I have something to say and then I'll ask you a question. Okay. My career started in 2015.
Correct.
So I have only got to see this government as a professional. Before that, I was a student, least concerned with current affairs. And then once you become a professional, once you start earning money and paying taxes, you kind of start keeping a track.
Correct.
As you grow older, you listen to podcasts, you get access to people like yourself.
Correct.
So it has been shaping up my opinion. Personally, as an entrepreneur, as a content creator, I've benefited a lot from this whole geo boom in the country. Many more people are seeing the internet, etc., etc. For example, say someone in a corner of the Northeast is now suddenly seeing my content because they have the internet. So I have seen the positives of this government in my own career. I would like to know kind of what the Congress government would do if they were actually in power in the last 9 years. Do you think I'd see an even larger benefit?
Yeah.
You think I would?
Who went to court against 2G, the first spectrum when it came out? And for your viewers, and a lot of them won't know it, was the BJP. So I'm not going to get too technical. When Vajpayee ji was Prime Minister, before Manmohan Singh ji became Prime Minister, there was a policy, and I don't want to get too technical, but those who are watching your podcast will understand it. There's a policy of first come, first serve. So 2G spectrum, because everything works on spectrum, as you know it, was not auctioned. And the reason for this was they wanted every Indian to have access to mobile phones. In those days, 2G. Because there were enough surveys that said, and this was a TRI recommendation, TRI is the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India for your viewers, that the more people have access to phones, the more your GDP increases. The BJP, and I'm going to name the gentleman, Vinod Rai, CAG, who I think should be in jail. And I'm saying this and I'm using very strong language for destroying the Indian economy. And he's apologized, by the way, for what he's done. He put out a report saying there was a notional loss in the allocation of spectrum. Now, please tell me, because you're an entrepreneur, one is either pregnant or not pregnant. There is either loss or no loss. What is a notional loss? What is a notional pregnancy? The BJP then went to court with the left loonies. By the way, the right-wing BJP went to court with the left loonies. And they had the 2G spectrum cancelled. Every Indian had mobile. That's when your mobile phone came down from 16 rupees an outgoing call. I don't know if you remember it, to one paisa or 5 paisa or something. That was the boom. The BJP destroyed it. Who went to the parliament and withdrew support to Manmohan Singh on the nuclear deal? The left loonies and the BJP on the nuclear deal. And again, for your viewers to understand, the nuclear deal, or what was called the 123 agreement in 2008, gave India access to nuclear technology without it being signatories to the NSG, the nuclear supplier group. No other country in the world has this exception except India. And today, and I'm proud of what the Prime Minister has achieved on our foreign policy, today we tom-tom how India is a power. India got this under Manmohan Singh. And the left loonies and the BJP tried to derail it. They tried to derail and destabilize the government. Nuclear power is a must for India. They tried to do this. So a lot of these policies, today, when you talk about, for example, business growing, and this government takes a lot of credit for direct benefit transfer, which has happened to Aadhaar. You will not believe it. The first chief minister to oppose Aadhaar was the then chief minister of Gujarat and today our prime minister. He opposed Aadhaar. So they've done the same thing. And unfortunately, today we are in a state where the opposition also at a lot of time opposes policies for the sake of doing it. But it's not that the BJP didn't do it. The BJP did all of these things.
So effectively, my reading is that India is such a big country with such an ambitious population, effectively, because this is what I have understood about both the world of geopolitics and GDP growth. If your population is intelligent and capable, your country will grow in all ways. Now, we are that country with a young population. Everyone's ambitious. Lots of people want to be entrepreneurs, etc., etc. Irrespective of which government is in power, the country is going to grow thanks to the population.
It's going to become the third largest economy in the world.
Okay. And you also are going to see the opposition criticizing the government in power, irrespective of which party is ruling, for the same things. They're basically going to play out the same roles. So the separation is the capabilities of the people in power and the qualifications of the people in power.
Yes. And therefore, because I'm a Congress supporter, which I'm putting out, I want your viewers to know. I keep advising the Congress that don't have a common minimum program now in this election, because they've got this alliance called INDI, have a vision document and tell Indians, young Indians like yourself, what you will do to make their lives better. Be very specific. So, for example, one of my things that I keep telling the Congress leaders and I meet everyone is, we will announce a separate ministry for artificial intelligence. We will announce that internet will not be cut the way it's being cut in India. Like you said some time ago, your content is watched in Northeast, but Manipur, the internet has been shut for so long. Now, the government's failure cannot mean that the common man suffers, right? You can argue, look, violence is happening, rumors are spreading. एक दिन बंद करो. एक महीना आप बंद कर रहे हो, 15 days. How can India have more internet shut down than Ukraine? It's unfair. So this young population also depends on the internet for banking, for medical, for insurance. Your life runs on the internet. How can you shut it down?
See, I like this suggestion. This is what appeals to a young person in me. Talk about the future a lot more rather than the recent past or even the distant past and things that have gone wrong. And I also believe news channels don't bring out this futuristic narrative. That's what people my age want to hear. That, okay, what are you going to do different?
You have to. Again, you know what I tell my advice to the Congress leaders. And I think this is where Congress sometimes loses the narrative. And I want your viewers to visualize. Imagine two restaurants. Sure. One is called BJP, one's called Congress. Two restaurants, opposite sides of the road. One's on the right, one's on the left. In the BJP restaurant, you know the star chef is Narendra Modi. You know Amit Shah ji is the sous chef, Nirmala Sitharaman ji is the sous chef, Jaishankar ji is the sous chef, Ajit Doval ji is the sous chef. You may like or dislike the dishes they make. You may dislike the Hindutva narrative of Amit Shah ji, or the economy dish that Nirmala Sitharaman ji is cooking up, or the internal security of Ajit Doval, or the external affairs of Jaishankar. But you know specifically what you're getting. You know the star chef is Narendra Modi. In the Congress restaurant, I don't know who's the star chef. I don't know whether it's buffet or it's an a la carte. I don't know what I'm going to be served. All I know is they are saying BJP restaurant is bad. I agree. I am a Congress. I agree the BJP restaurant is bad. I don't want to go there. But what are you serving me? I am hungry. It's lunchtime. You got to serve me something. So unless the opposition does not come out with a vision document telling people specifically what they're going to do, they won't get the fence sitters. They need to get the fence sitters. So talk about AI, talk about Web 3.0, talk about creating new jobs, talk about technology, talk about liberal values, talk about saying we will not interfere in your personal life. Ask the BJP to articulate a position. Set the narrative for the BJP. And the BJP will fall in its trap because the BJP has a lot to answer for 9 years that they haven't done. So you have to set the narrative on what you're going to do.
Why haven't these steps been taken?
Because they don't take advice from me. They should start hiring me. And through this, I'm saying, watch it and hire me.
But you can't be the first person who's like put forward this advice. I'm sure there's other people.
But like I'm the sanest person who's put forward the advice.
Okay.
But I don't know why it hasn't happened. It should happen with INDIA. I hope they do. Because people are tired of the same old politics of both BJP and Congress. They are tired of it.
Yeah. Because I've been on YouTube for 8 years, I have access to a lot of data. I have all sorts of people in my audience. And I do believe that my audience does represent a significant portion of India at least.
Correct.
All these young people who are following me are wondering about these same things. I'll tell you what the criticism of the Congress side is. One, there's too much Rahul Gandhi celebration. And there are, I think a significant portion of the country has lost faith in him a little bit. And that's the narrative online as well. Please feel free to correct that narrative a little bit.
I'll tell you. Yeah.
Okay, so this is one angle. Because it's looking more and more to the amateur political observer that it's kind of becoming a presidential style election where it's Modi versus Rahul Gandhi. Like everyone assumes that if the Congress actually is in power, Rahul Gandhi will be made PM. And if not him, then who? And when you actually pit them against each other, you're talking about experience and age and power and somewhat of a track record versus someone who's not even been a cabinet minister or not even been a CM, etc., etc. Right. So that's the main criticism, and that's why I feel a lot of the centrist votes are going to go for BJP or Nota, one of the two. But people won't vote for Congress because of this. And the second criticism is this whole futuristic angle that people might don't want to watch the news because it's all debates about the recent past rather than, hey, by the way, in America, ChatGPT is taking over the world. Hey, by the way, in China, they're probably working on quantum computing.
Yes. So and it's crazy. And again, our energies are in sync. This is the third or fourth thing that I was thinking and you've spelled it out. You know, when Rajiv Gandhi was prime minister, we built our second supercomputer. Few countries in the world have a supercomputer. India is one of them. Why aren't we building a quantum computer? I know Google's doing it. You know that America's doing it. You know China's doing it. We know that now. Why isn't India doing it? Do we not have the technology? What are we talking about today? Let me be brutally critical of the BJP. Who's living in with who's doing what, who's eating what meat? How does that matter? Why aren't we talking about quantum computing? Because that is going to redefine the world as we know it. It's going to redefine our space security. It's going to redefine everything. Why aren't we doing it? Do we not have the capabilities?
I mean, my limited understanding is it's possibly happening somewhere. That's what I assume about all governments. At least that's what I understood from the scientists on the show, that projects are always being worked upon.
They haven't paid ISRO the salaries for the last 3 months. ISRO scientists, they haven't paid salaries for the last 3 months. Is that fair? And that's my issue with this government. When you ask me when I say they're socialist or they're left, 3 months ISRO scientists, we're very proud of ISRO. It's a great organization. 3 months salaries haven't been paid. And feel free to fact check me on this.
I will, but first I want to talk about this Rahul Gandhi angle. I just want to cap it off. Because you're a Congress supporter, do you look at him as your leader?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Do you feel he's the victim of bad media narratives?
No.
Okay.
You can't blame him. You can't blame the media for it. You have to own up and take responsibility. You can't blame the media. Media will do what it has to do. वो उनका धर्म है. Dharma is, I'm not saying religious wise, I don't want controversy. That is their narrative. You got to create your narrative.
The most recent version of Rahul Gandhi that we saw on the internet was, I think, with Samdesh, he had done some conversation. In my eyes, and again, I'm really trying to find positives, but I don't look at him as a capable leader because he's not got like a track record behind him, honestly, pound for pound. And secondly, I do believe that he's got to work his way up. I look at him in the same way that many people would look at Bollywood star kids, that he's sitting upon legacy. And he can definitely change this by appearing on more podcasts, by doing more media interviews where he's talking freely. You know, not just doing the whataboutery and blaming the government, but talking futuristically. If he does this, he's a young leader and I feel he can be branded well. And this is something I feel both sides get wrong. I don't feel BJP or the Congress gets the branding right. It's too old school. But who am I to say anything? BJP's like won this election based on branding.
Like too old school, both of them. But I think with RG, what's happened, I do believe the narrative has changed slightly for him after Bharat Jodo. I also want to make one thing clear. I don't think Rahul Gandhi at this moment is in the race to be prime minister. He doesn't. And from his family, to be fair to his family, since his father was martyred, that's 89, nobody from his family has become prime minister. And I always say this too when this question's thrown about RG to me. He could have become prime minister in 2010, 2011, 2012. He didn't. So to be fair to him, I don't think that family is obsessed about being prime minister. I think what RG, and to your question, why do I see him as a leader? I think what RG brings to the table is a strong moral force. He's a very upright, moralistic guy. Because perhaps he's seen so much tragedy upfront in his life. Imagine his father being blown up and had to body to stitch, his grandmother being killed by his best friends who used to play badminton with, they shot his grandmother. Because I think he's seen so much personal suffering, he seems to be a very, very nice guy. He's a very empathetic guy. He has a lot of empathy. He cares. I know that he cares about people, he cares about individuals, he cares about situation, he cares about strife. And it's not easy to sort of be somebody in his position. So I don't think he hankers for power. I think what he needs to do is be political. He's not the prime ministerial candidate. He's definitely the moral force of the Congress that binds the Congress.
Why do you think he didn't serve as a cabinet minister in 2010?
If you ask me personally, in my opinion, that's a mistake. He should have. He should have been a cabinet minister. But the more I see him now, I think he's not driven by power. He's driven more by a larger principle of trying to be a more humane person, a leader who can bring a healing touch. So I think even then, while forget cabinet, he could have just been prime minister in 2010. I mean, it's wrong. It could have been wrong. It can be argued it's wrong. Who would have stopped him? But the fact is he didn't. The fact is that he stood up for what he believes in, and he even today stands up for what he believes in, irrespective of how he's criticized. It's not easy to go to Manipur in the middle of a strife and play a healing touch and meet both sides. He does that. So I see a very humane quality in him. And whatever interactions I've had with him, he's been so empathetic, so kind. And I think that is amazing. So I think at some point the nation does need somebody like him who can bring a healing touch. But I don't think he's the prime ministerial candidate.
Okay. I'll give a very straightforward PR move for him. He should appear on all the best podcasts in the country, from Smita Prakash to TRS to Untriggered to Dostcast to Raj Shamani. He should just go on all, show his human side, show what he's about with a bit of a game plan, without his managers in the room. Okay? And see how the internet and the youth reacts to that. If he does that, it'll cover up his whole PR. And this is coming straight from a YouTuber who understands the world of branding and PR. If he does this, then he needs to showcase it.
I actually agree with this. And I think he should do fun shows. And I think in some way, Bharat Jodo did change his image. I mean, here's a guy who every morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, starts walking, walks 25 kilometers a day. And you're a runner. It's not easy to walk 25 kilometers a day. Day in, day out, fit, young guy, meeting the common man, putting security aside, talking, understanding their problem, showcasing the diversity of this country.
Yeah.
I think that was brilliant.
I've always drawn out the national narrative from the world of cricket.
Yeah.
We're in the age of Virat Kohli, which is also why you see people like Jesai Deepak,
Correct.
Anand Ranganathan, their online brands taking off.
Yeah.
The youth wants to see a certain amount of aggression, straightforwardness. They want to see a Virat Kohli
And
in
alpha.
everyone. And alphaness.
I agree with you.
Which I don't know if his moral values satisfy the youth's need for seeing that Virat Kohli type of figure. And I think maybe he has a chance to change that if he appears on screen. In a lot of people's eyes, he's not hustled enough right now to be considered a PM candidate. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
But I don't think he's the PM candidate. I don't think he's put that out. And the track record shows his family hasn't occupied that post for the last 30 plus years.
If not him, then who?
Well, I do believe firmly that they should have a PM face to take on the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
I do believe that firmly. Because like I gave my earlier example of the head chef, if you have a head chef and a star chef in Mr. Modi, you need a star chef opposite it. So I do believe they should have that. The political boring answers, the Constitution of India says MPs will select their Prime Minister. That's a political constitutional answer. And that's a great answer. But people of India want to see a fight. So I think you should have somebody, whoever it is, you choose on a name who will sort of create a new vision for India, a vision that is different from the BJP's vision, that will challenge the BJP to speak on issues that the BJP finds uncomfortable to speak on. Economy. The BJP is not good. Their narrative is very simple. And everyone who comes to your podcast will do, we are now the 5th largest economy, we'll become 3rd. You would have anyways become the 3rd largest. Nothing's going to stop us from being 3rd largest. Can your per capita income go from 127th in the world to 3rd largest in the world? That is the key. Can we have an India that is free of strife? Can we create many more first generation entrepreneurs? Their narrative is so set up, so stuck up, that which is the obvious. So we need to create that narrative and challenge the BJP on issues that the BJP is uncomfortable. Move them beyond religion. Because that is where the BJP is at its strongest.
Yeah.
The BJP is at its strongest when it comes down to religion.
I strongly agree with this. In terms of, again, I'm an amateur political observer. I'm an engineering grad who's focused on growing his own businesses in his career. What I've noticed in the last 9 years is, sure, there's growth, sure, there's like national fervor, sure, there's geopolitical strength, and sure, there is a lot of Hindu-Muslim divide. Sure, there's a lot of communal tension. When you talk to the minorities in the country, there is definitely a negative sentiment. There is a sentiment of fear. And I hate seeing that because I've grown up in this cosmopolitan city. I've grown up with friends from all faiths. It does piss me off. And then when I dive a little bit deeper, I realize, oh, this is political marketing. Because at the end of the day, a politician's career is two-pronged. One, you have to get elected to be in power. Two, you have to run the country.
Correct.
I do believe when you are elected and when you're in power, you have the funds to be able to pay for the best minds around you. And they'll effectively tell you how to run the country well. But when you're trying to get to power, you need to have really strong political strategy. And one of the easiest ways to control masses is use religions and pit them against each other. Even if you yourself are a secular person, you might just go down that route of saying, oh, no, fight with the other religion.
That's true.
So I don't like the overall sentiment, the religious sentiment in our country today, because I see Muslims around me, Christians around me, Sikhs around me feeling slightly uncomfortable. I'm not Muslim, I'm not Christian, I'm not Sikh. It's not my right to say that, no, but you guys should be feeling like this because I have not lived your reality. I do not like this, and I don't think it's going to change either. I think this kind of religious fervor is going to be there in the country. I can do my bit as a podcaster and try influencing people to think a certain way. I don't see it changing. I dislike it, and I hope that people change. And I hope that the masses understand how religion can be used as a tool to influence your mind and therefore your vote.
All we have to do, and I want our youngsters who are watching this podcast to know, India and Pakistan were born on the same day. Pakistan 1 day ahead. I mean, they celebrate 14th August. We're born on the same day. Look at where India is today, and look at where Pakistan is. And I'm not comparing ourselves to India. I think we should fight. Our fight should be with America, France, and Britain.
Yeah.
I don't consider China because it's not a democracy. I know China is the second largest economy in the world, but our competition should be that. But look at where we've left Pakistan behind. And the reason we left Pakistan behind is because Pakistan introduced religion in everything. And look at what happened to Pakistan. And India is such a great, diverse country. Why should anyone, Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christians, gay, transgender, anyone feel insecure of anybody else? Why can't we, as fellow citizens, work towards a larger, greater good of making our lives and thereby the country's lives more prosperous? If you do well, he does well, your team does well, I do well. If each one of us individually grows, the country as a whole grows. So why aren't we looking at it? Why is this, even amongst my Hindu fellow citizens, why is there fear? Why is there fear of the Muslim? You've lived so many years with the Muslim. Why has this fear come up? What is this fear? So I think that this narrative needs to end now. It's not good because Hillary Clinton said something amazing. You cannot have snakes in your backyard and think it will only sting you or only bite your neighbors. It won't come to bite you. The minute this hate goes out of control, it will spread like wildfire and you cannot control it. Have you thought, and this is, something just came to my mind. We have so many of these mob violence incidents. I'm not even getting into the religion of it. Mob violence is wrong, period. Why are young Indians involved in mob fights? Why are young Indians doing the most barbaric things, mob fighting? Mobs were prevalent in 14th century Europe. They were prevalent in 17th, 18th century United States. It's a very old-fashioned thing. Why are they doing such an old-fashioned thing and using modern technology like phones to record it? For example, what happened in Manipur, the parading of the mob parading those two women. And they're recording it using the latest technology, the Geo or the 4G or the 5G or the latest gadgets, doing something that is so old, that is something so ancient. Can you, the contradiction? Because when you don't have jobs, you get mobs. Ranveer, please answer this. And I'm going to be brutally honest here and feel free to stop me if you think I'm crossing the line. Why is no BJP minister's son on the street protecting religion or fighting for culture or nationalism? Why is no Muslim leader's kids on the road fighting for religion or protecting religion or his culture identity? Why is OAC's kids, and I'm taking names, studying abroad? Why do Shivraj Singh Chauhan's kids study abroad? Why are politicians' kids studying abroad? Why are they learning English? Why is it those on the mobs, the poorest of our poor fellow citizens? Because they don't have jobs. Why will you not be on the road with a mob? Because you have a job to do. You're an entrepreneur, you have jobs, you have houses to take care of. If you don't have jobs, you get mobs. Why has India suddenly got so many mobs? Because we aren't creating enough jobs. Which politician across the divide is telling you that, listen, with AI coming in, your jobs are going to, in a lot of ways, reduce. For example, even your secretary will go to ChatGPT. I have 2 secretaries, I may just have 1 in the future. With automatic cars coming in, you may not need chauffeurs or drivers. Why aren't they? Where are these young Indians going to go? They're going to go into the service industry then? Because you have a young population, you have to accommodate, you have to give them jobs. What are we doing to make our service industry even better? Make it easier. Where are young Indians going to go? So they're going to become bartenders, they're going to become podcasters, they're going to run spas, they're going to run salons. That's where they're going to go, right? You can export your service industry. We have young population, speak good English, we can export it. Why aren't we talking about that? What are we talking about? Look at what's happening in Haryana at this moment. Look at what's happening in Manipur at this moment. Why is this happening in our country? And who are the sufferers? Ultimately, the sufferers are the youngsters. The politicians, either side of the divide, their kids are abroad. They're studying. Why aren't their kids on the road? If there was such a threat to India, to Hindus or to Muslims, or to Christians or to Sikhs, why aren't the politicians' kids on the street? How many politicians' kids do you know of who've been arrested for riots? 0. How many politicians do you know of who are on the streets brandishing swords, trishuls, guns, AK-47? 0. Why is it the kids who don't have jobs?
How do you create more jobs? What's the actual way to create more jobs?
First, to have a conversation, to figure out, look, the world is transforming at a rapid pace. And I'm just going to slightly diverse. I was last week with a friend of mine who owns one of the best hospitals in India, cancer special hospitals. They've got a robot in which now, if your cancer hasn't spread and you don't need chemo, does the operation in 2 days, you're out. It precisely does the operation. So your number of doctors are going to come down for an operation. So with technology coming in every field of the world, with jobs reducing, jobs will be created in new spheres. You will have to create jobs in spheres that we'll have to research, we'll have to find, we'll have to accommodate. That conversation is not happening. So if you want to create new jobs, for example, in the service industry, we'll require more people, for example, to start more spas or salons or podcasts or whatever. How is that going to happen? What do they require? Can you be a good podcaster in the Northeast with 1 month of internet cut? So everything has to be decided. Everything has to be put in context. Everything has to be synchronized. Everything has to fit that jigsaw puzzle. For that, you need to have a civilized conversation. What is our conversation over the last few years been about? Hindu, Muslim, ye khatre mein hai, wo khatre mein hai, my identity is being attacked. Why? Because these are diversionary tactics. But again, I go back. None of the politicians' kids are involved in this conversation. They're all abroad. They're studying at Harvard, Boston, the best universities in the world, Oxford. The poor are out there. And unless you don't give these poor people jobs, they will all be mobs. And that is the problem. What is happening in Pakistan today? Mobs. What's happening in Syria today? Mobs. Afghanistan today? Mobs. I'm not comparing my country to it. It's a democratic country with the rule of law. But is it rule of law that 50 kilometers ahead of Haryana, people are firing each other of different religion? I'm not taking any religion side with AK-47, 56. And not one politician is asking the question that how did AK-47 and AK-56 come, or sniper guns come inside Haryana 50 kilometers from where our honorable Prime Minister stays? Is this an Afghanistan? Is this a Syria?
Okay. I have some observations that I've picked up from the show and try tying these into the thought that you're in already. When I had Sanjeev Sanyal on the show, now he works with the government. He's the economic advisor.
Brilliant guy, huh?
Yeah. Incredible mind, probably one of the best podcasts.
Did you read his book?
I haven't yet.
I want to read it as well. Yeah.
That's a whole other conversation. Go on. Sanjeev Sanyal, effectively, when I asked him about similar kind of questions in terms of how do you build more jobs in the country, he said that it's any government's job to provide kind of an infrastructure. They are working on building a massive fish tank. The fish are the people who live within the fish tank. And then it's for the fish to actually do their thing and try creating businesses. So he said that the government looks towards the world of entrepreneurship as the means to growth, saying, hey, we've built all the infrastructure for you. Now, please, you guys create things and take the country forward. That's how the government looks at it. Now, this is one narrative.
Correct.
Secondly, when I actually went for the cabinet minister podcast, what people saw were the conversations. I spent almost a week, in that premises, going from one ministry to another. I saw how the government works. I felt that there were some things that could be improved in terms of efficiency, like the entrepreneur and me kicked in. I was like, if I was in charge of all this, there would be certain things I would be doing better. Like I would be a little more organized, etc. But who am I, to say anything?
No, you are. You're a tax-paying citizen, bro. You are right. Look, sorry, I'm interrupting you. The first 3 words of our constitution is we the people. Not I the president, I the prime minister, I the leader of opposition, I the chief justice. We the people. We are the owners of this country.
My reading was that in that whole administrative system, there's a heavy need of a lot more young people. The best run department, at least from my eyes, was Piyush Goyal's department. And he had a few young people around him.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, a senior mine from engineering college was actually working with him. And that dude was one of the sharpest guys in my engineering college. So I actually got really happy seeing him there. I was like, okay,
nice. So
this is the kind of energy that certain cabinet ministers are at least going for. And again, I'm not marketing Piyush Goyal. I'm just saying it how it is. I also saw that there's a big variety in how different cabinet ministers choose to run their ministries. It's kind of like they're micro entrepreneurs within that ministry. Yeah. So effectively, what I figured is, one, at least the feeling I got is all of them are hustling. At least that's what it felt like. Because when I met them at night, they were all you could tell they've had a long work day. Yeah. When I met them in the morning, the energy around them was very, listen, let's get work done. So they were working at maximum capacity. Of course, there's all these negative things of political narrative, too much PR about Modi ji. I felt like that's something the BJP should switch about its own PR strategy. Stop talking about Modi ji and start talking about the actual, cabinet ministers. Even they are cool people.
Very cool.
Start talking about yourselves. Address all the shortcomings as well. Like that's something that I don't think happens in politics for some reason. No one addresses the shortcoming. No one goes into the self-criticism thing.
Correct.
Where the world of the internet is, the audience has become really smart.
Correct.
If you don't criticize yourself, they will criticize you doubly on the internet.
True.
So it's important to address where you've gone wrong in the way that I didn't ask them tough enough questions. That's my self-criticism. But the people in power also have to do that.
Yeah.
Now, coming to this whole thing about creating jobs, I don't know enough to know whether the government has it in their power to create more jobs or not. I want to know specifically, as an entrepreneur, as an engineering guy, what are the steps they can take to create more jobs?
So first, if you want to create more jobs, the government should do nothing. If they do nothing, it'll get created. I'll tell you why. I think, and I'll give the Prime Minister credit. He has at times said it. Okay, I'm going to get trolled for this. He has at times said it. But also, I think that he's not said it forcefully enough or implemented it enough. So I was fighting vigilantism, which had nothing, which was both sides. As many Muslims have been lynched, believe you me, Hindus have been lynched. Believe you me, the most lynched people in India are not Hindus or Muslims, but the transgenders. आप बता दो ये सेक्स वर्कर है, मार लो. Women are the most lynched. आप बता दो ये पागल है, प्रॉपर्टी लेनी है, विच है, चुड़ैल है. आज के भारत में. So they are much more lynched than Hindu-Muslim. So I fought lynching. The Honorable Prime Minister's statement was, उनको मत मारो, मुझे मारो. भाई कोई किसे क्यों मारे? जो मारा उसको अब जेल में बंद करो ना. So I think the Prime Minister does make an effort. I just think it doesn't fructify into a complete effort. He should put his foot down. So that is one. I'm not even saying प्यार की बात करो. Rahul Gandhi is doing मोहब्बत की दुकान, आप मत करो, but नफरत बंद करो. Second thing I think that should happen is the ability to speak without fear should be encouraged. We are a democracy. And I go back to what I said. The first three words of our constitution is we the people, not I the prime minister, I the president, I the leader of opposition. We the people. We the people. This country is ours first. We the people. There's no God in our constitution. We the people are first. We are supreme. So we should have the right to criticize who we want, as long as it's within decent. I don't believe in abusive. Why should somebody be offended? Why should they be scared at IT, CBI, ED, or anybody from either side? Again, when I say this, you will have a lot of people tweeting you don't know how much Congress has misused it. Of course they have. Therefore the BJP came. Of course the Congress has misused it. I'd be a hypocrite being a Congress supporter on your podcast saying Congress didn't do it. Of course they misused these laws. But the BJP is also doing it. Why should that happen? Why shouldn't India be a country where I'm free to say what I want to who I want? As long as it's not abusive or defamatory. And defamation laws exist. Why should you be scared? Unless you don't have these two ideal situations, jobs will not be created. Because the easy way out is mobs. So you have to do this.
Okay. I still am of the opinion that if there's more entrepreneurial energy in the country and just more entrepreneurs, and I don't know if it's in the government's hands to create more entrepreneurs. It's just a part of culture.
But shouldn't the policy is in their hands?
Yeah.
Shouldn't policy be consistent?
Yes. And I'll also say this. Most of my startup friends and people in my startup network want to incorporate their companies abroad.
Why? That answers your question. I'll tell you, I'll give you a personal example. I have a business partner. He passed away in Jan this year. And we ran an NGO together, a not-for-profit company, which did a lot of work during COVID. Your producers know that. So when he passed away, we're today in August. He passed away in Jan. Till today, his name as director hasn't gone out, and my mom's name as director in the company hasn't come in, simply because the Ministry of Corporate Affairs website is so slow and it just takes so long. You are talking about digital India. I'm talking about from Jan to now. Okay, I started the process in Feb. We're today in August. The bank account should hopefully get done next week now. Why is it taking so long? For Zurwan's Aadhaar card, and this is day before yesterday, it's digital, right? So Zurwan's only 5 months old, is Aadhaar. For the digital thing, my secretary called me 30 times, had to try 30 times for that OTP to go through. 30 times, because it was on my phone. 30 times, because the website doesn't work. Yeah. How is this digital India? So you have to make, you can't talk about digital India not implemented. Number two, day before yesterday, they said, now we're going to ban laptops. Masterstroke. Great. Today they've said, no, we'll allow laptops to come in. How can you change policy in 2 days? Do you not think of your policy through? Then how does a young entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs depend upon policy. You cannot midway change your policy because you as a businessman make commitments based on a government's policies. Those policies can't be changed.
I spoke to my senior who works in Piyush Goyal's team. He said that it's definitely not the highest paying job. He could have earned much more by working abroad, etc. But he said that it feels great to work for your country. It's extremely rewarding to actually be able to contribute to what's happening in your nation. Man, I know like 50 people from my own network and my own career who would be fantastic additions to this business development unit of the government. And, even when you bring up narratives like this, it's often those two extreme ends of the horseshoe magnet then start criticizing you that, this is so silly. How can you even say that? Dude, this is the solution to all these problems. This is why I actually, I love talking to you, bro, because there's brotherly energy and I love your communication skills, but I don't always enjoy political conversations because we're always highlighting what's happened in the last 1 or 2 years rather than saying, listen, I think that's the solution.
Correct.
Do you ever see that changing? And I personally, I'm sure there's politicians watching this. I'm sure there's government personnel watching this.
And they're going to get trolled. Both sides are going to troll us.
Yeah.
This one's going to be both sides.
It's perfectly fine, man. I'm like Leonidas in 300 with the arrows. But do you think this will ever happen? Will we actually see changes in the way the government operates, or do politicians just enjoy the power too much?
They enjoy the power too much, but we need to see it. If we think beyond the headlines that India is going to be the third largest GDP, we really want to make a qualitative difference to people's lives. Qualitative difference. We need to change that. And the only way to change it is entrepreneurs. The more businesses you'll create, the more your GDP will grow, the more you'll create auxiliary businesses around it, the more you'll have jobs being created. There is no other way except creating businesses. And dole-outs is not the way, because ultimately, where does the money come from? So for that, to create businesses, labor reforms, even more reforms in manufacturing, taxation reforms, all of this needs to be done. All of this needs to be debated. We need to have substantial debates on this. We are not doing it.
Okay. The person I was most impressed by, and I'm sorry I'm bringing it back much to that.
That's your experience. You have to share it. Yeah.
Which is why I didn't talk to you a lot outside. I just wanted to be honest. Was Rajiv Chandrasekhar. Because he had an entrepreneurial past. I believe
he's been an entrepreneur, telecom.
I think he's a billionaire.
Yeah.
Sold BPL, etc., etc. And he's still choosing to
be in government.
Yeah. Now, you could argue that, this is probably the next human high, that after money, there's power. I would argue that he's trying to do something for his country.
I think so. I don't think anyone has bad intentions.
Yeah. Everyone begins with trying to do something for the country, but it's about what they do during the cricket match that is criticized or applauded. I would love to see more people like him in power, people who've had fantastic business careers behind them, who know how to run organizations, CEOs, etc. I believe even the Chinese Communist Party, the top leadership is a bunch of people who've served as CEOs of companies. Yeah. At least someone on the show recently said this.
Yeah.
That struck me like a bolt of lightning, man, because I know that, first of all, what do you think of Nitin Gadkari in short?
I love Nitin Gadkari. I think, honestly, he's the best performing BJP minister.
Why isn't it a bunch of Nitin Gadkaris in the cabinet then?
Because the Prime Minister won't like it.
Why?
In my opinion, the Prime Minister likes everything being done from a centralized system. And I know that BJP supporters won't like it, but it's too much about Modi ji. And we spoke about this. It has to be. You have to let go of some power. You have to delegate. See, Nitin Gadkari is his own man in that sense. He comes from Nagpur. He's very close to the TRS leadership. Very difficult to sideline him. So he's able to get things done. And he's done a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard a negative word from Nitin Gadkari? Have you said, paisa nahi hai, recession? Paisa nahi hai, main highway bana dunga. I'll make bonds. That is how it is. He finds solutions. He's not crying about problems. Is he playing victim card? You'll never find Nitin Gadkari playing a victim card.
Yeah, I think, honestly, at least speaking from the perspective of the internet, Dr. Jaishankar is currently the second most popular politician in the BJP, and I would probably put Nitin Gadkari at number 3, or maybe a close number. Maybe it's the number 2 position is between him and Dr.
But also, Dr. Jaishankar has all these amazing statements that he made, the bravado statements, some of which I'm critical about, which all got India into a little bit of trouble.
Politicians, I hope they understand how important reels and shorts are for their
I hope so too.
General election
But listen,
preparation.
But Dr. Jaishankar's perfect material for reels.
Yeah.
For reels, he's phenomenal. With those one-liners that he does, very good.
I think the others need to crack it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, they really need some education from young people.
True.
I felt that in my experience as well, that there was a lot of inputs I gave the government in general, at least the little interaction I had with them, even off camera. And they were receptive. But I was like, whoa, I'm just 29, dude. And I figured some shit about the digital world.
True.
And I think these guys really need help in certain aspects. So I hope they're keeping up with the times, which is why I think both the sides need an overall when it comes to their PR strategies. They're not keeping up with what's happening in the internet.
And reach out to more people. And reach out in lingo which is understood.
Yeah.
Not in lingo that is too over the top.
Is this a flimsy conversation? Because I'm not going into specifics.
No, it's a very important conversation.
I'll tell you why I'm not deep diving so much into the details or challenging some of the things you're saying, etc. I want people to view this conversation even 2 years, 3 years from now. And primarily, I'm making this conversation for first-time voters. I'm making this conversation for college students who have no idea about what's happening in the world of politics because everyone stopped watching the news. Everyone watches shorts, reels, and podcasts.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm doing justice to this subject right now because it's not my core subject. My core subject is spirituality.
Which is something that we both spoke about.
Yeah, for sure. But how do I improve this conversation?
I think we just go with the energy. I think we've touched upon some very important things so far in this conversation. We have got a lot of specifics. We haven't got deep into the issue because we're not talking about, say, the economy per se or foreign affairs per se. But we have spoken about issues and we've spoken about macro issues. And we must keep it on macro issues because this is what this conversation was always about. And that's what your viewers expect. That's what people expect. The specifics can come closer to the date. But at least if you have a general idea what direction you're going, I think that will help people.
Okay. Again, this is all in build up to the general elections.
Correct.
So I do wish to ask you about who your PM candidates would be from the Congress side. Because that's effectively how audiences see it.
True.
They see Modi ji, they don't see Rahul Gandhi. It's like a question mark right now. What's the vision that you have? I actually feel someone like you is more equipped to answer this question than Congress politicians.
If you were to ask me who the Congress should project as a PM candidate,
yes,
I would suggest somebody young who's good in communication, both English and Hindi, and can take people along and has had experience. So the Congress has such talent. It has Sachin Pilot, it has Milind Deora from Mumbai. Not prime ministerial candidate, but very talented. So I think even if they don't have a prime ministerial candidate, if they can, say, put up candidates as a shadow cabinet, something that I've been articulating. Dr. Shashi Tharoor, phenomenal again. Just imagine a debate between Dr. Jaishankar and Dr. Shashi Tharoor, both articulating India's foreign affairs policy and the viewers deciding. That is the ideal democracy. And both giving their narratives. Nobody's right or wrong. Both giving their narratives, their point. I think that'll be something people will look forward to. Imagine Raghu Ram Rajan if he decides to come back and serve India, and if he has an Indian passport, and Nirmala Sitharaman talking about the economy, or Sachin Pilot and Amit Shah ji talking about home ministry, or Milind Deora and Piyush Goyal talking about commerce.
In podcast, disagreements lead to richer conversations.
Yeah,
we need to see this on a national scale.
Yes, and there's no right or wrong, and see. And it's because spirituality, India is not about right or wrong. India is about actions and consequences of those actions. You can have your point of view. Somebody else can have their own. And the people will decide which way is better. Just imagine a debate between Shashi Tharoor and Jaishankar about India's foreign politics, geopolitics, India's relations with the US, China, etc. Imagine Milind Deora and Piyush Goyal discussing commerce, talking about it, putting out their vision. What an enriching conversation that will be. We can have so much for the country to take, so much to choose, and both can take the best of each other. Shouldn't that be democracy and the celebration of democracy?
Why don't Sachin Pilot and Milind Deora approach us for podcasts?
I can definitely WhatsApp them and send you.
I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah.
I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah.
But my question is, why haven't they already approached?
That's a question they can answer. I don't speak for them, but I do know that they're both very cool people. They're both very, very progressive, grounded people. very connected with their respective constituencies. And it's not just them. So many of these young politicians, I see they're so connected with the people that they come and they serve from. So I think it's amazing to see the commitment that they have towards the country or towards their constituency. And I do think if more people like this come on your podcast, it will only enrich your podcast because they bring such an experience with them, people like this. And they bring so much perspective. So I think it'll be phenomenal. And why just Sachin and Milan? Why not even a Modi ji or a Rahul ji?
Yeah.
How cool is that? Imagine you asking the Prime Minister questions or Rahul Gandhi questions. I think that'll be good. That's what democracy should be about.
I will also go on the record and say that we tried approaching left-wing journalists, left-wing leaders, and they straight up denied us because they said, no, you're right-wing. Why should I come on your podcast?
That's my problem. We've too divided as a country. You know, I always use this quote, politics is the art of building bridges.
One second.
Sorry.
I want to applaud you because you just accepted straight up. You were the first person who people perceive as being left who said, let's do it. And this gives us a lot of hope. But now go on, bro.
Because you must have conversation. I'd be a hypocrite if I don't have this conversation with you. How can I talk about building bridges but burn my bridges with you? If you WhatsApp me and said, look, we're doing this podcast, I know about your podcast. Why can't I just build an equation with you? Why does it have to be you versus me? Why can't it be us together? Some things we agree on, some things we disagree on. But have a bridge, have a conversation. Why are we not having conversations in our country any further? Why is it about hate, about enmity, about trolling, about fighting, about putting people down? Why can't it be about building bridges? I don't get this. And I think people want to build bridges. It'll be a much more calmer society if we build bridges. If we talk to, even if I think you're wrong, if I talk to you and I can put my point across why I think you're wrong, maybe you're open to hearing. Maybe I'm open to why you think a certain way.
Yeah.
And that calms things down rather than hatred.
You know, the downside for me in all this is the moment I bring on the cabinet ministers, the left will toot pado. The moment I bring on left, the right will toot pado. And honestly, I'm okay with it. I love the attention.
They should.
I love the publicity, love the attention. I also know, and I learned this from Palki Sharma, who I absolutely adore.
She's
and
phenomenal. Huh?
Respect. Like, she's one of my media idols for sure.
She's phenomenal.
She told me that, man, don't get affected by this whole cancel culture thing on Twitter, because if you effectively see any cancel culture tweet, max on like the worst day, it'll be 5,000 likes on a tweet against you. What is 5,000 as compared to
6 million?
Exactly.
True.
So she's like, it's just a part of being famous. Not that I do get affected, because, and that's a whole other story. I think to be a YouTuber in the public eye, you have to have a very thick skin from the beginning.
I think so.
8 years of this, man. I've seen all this like over time. I'm very okay with trolls.
Yeah.
And I'm okay to take on criticism from both sides for the sake of my country.
Correct.
I want to bring out like the truth.
Even for the sake of self-growth. Why
Sure.
not?
And for the sake of numbers at the end of the day. I love numbers.
I think that's good. And I think that's an amazing attitude to have. Very often we say, I don't want the numbers, I don't want the money. Kyun bhai? Bilkul numbers hona chahiye, bilkul paisa hona chahiye.
I'm not dude. Yeah. So just
they
who are in it for ethical reasons.
They criticized you, right?
Yeah. And I get it.
Yeah, that's
Fair.
fine. So my brother and I, we don't talk now, but we did a show together, Bhai versus Bhai. So they did a spoof on my brother and I loved it. I retweeted it.
Yeah.
I thought, badhiya hai. More 10 people who didn't know I was doing a show will know.
Yeah.
Kijiye bhai, you're doing publicity for me. I'm very okay with it.
Because I see these good-looking genetics. I would love to have your brother on the show as well at some point.
But if he and I don't talk with him, I can't WhatsApp. The others I can WhatsApp.
He had a cute clip with Barkha Dutt as well, I think, where he said something about why there aren't enough Muslim politicians, and then he said something about homosexuals.
Congress doesn't have any humor. I saw that clip. So I called. So okay, confession time. I called up Barkha. And I said that the podcast with my brother was amazing. And so I saw that clip, and then I saw the homosexual part because that had gone really viral. And I called up Barkha and I said, it's amazing. And I'll say something about Barkha. For all the trolling that she undergoes, she is such a phenomenal journalist. During COVID, she was on ground. When everyone was reporting from Delhi, she was actually traveling with the marginalized, with those who are suffering. Now she's in Manipur. I have a lot of respect for people who take their craft, their art, their work to the masses. So you can agree, disagree with Barkha's style of journalism. That's a separate debate. Her work ethics are mind-blowing. And I have so much respect for Barkha as a journalist. She's phenomenal. She's one of the best journalists in the history of this country.
I think that's how she's going to be remembered.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, I know there's a lot of right criticism upon her because she's anti-Modi, etc. But you can't argue with the track record. You can't argue with like what you gain after that kind of a career.
Yeah.
No one can take that away from her.
No one can take that
I actually would love to have her on the show if she's willing to come.
I can definitely send her a WhatsApp, but you got to be the charming person and call her.
No, I'd be happy to.
Or you need to hire me and share some of your profits with me as your guest coordinator, and then I can get it, because I'll be the best guest coordinator you can have. Yeah. We can have a bro code.
Yeah. Sure. But genuinely, you're like a great guest to have also. And as a podcast, I find myself in this weird position where very few topics take off in English.
Yeah.
So if I know someone can have an English conversation, I sometimes don't bring them on the Hindi show at all. No. Because I'm saving them for English podcasts. Correct. Hindi, there's unlimited podcasts in this country. Sure. English, it's been a bit of a challenge lately to find the next set of guests and all, man. That's why I'm repeating Abhijit Chavda so much, etc., etc.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
His whole knowledge on physics and science.
I dislike like the criticism he gets, and I get where it comes from as well, because he's also someone with very strong opinions. But man, I think him and people like him have a lot to give to the nation's story going forward. At least, irrespective of his political opinion, he's showing the world how to think and how to be like a professional. What I've come to realize about you and your world is that you're very connected to people on both the so-called right and so-called left, and the whole political commentators club. How big is Twitter, or what was formerly known as Twitter, now X, in your world? Like, does it dictate a lot of what's happening? Like, I'm sure that's your standard social media platform of choice, because that's where you get to express intellectualism and your own opinions.
Or so-called intellectualism. We are going to be, X is going to... Yeah, listen, if you see X videos, it doesn't sound very cool. I'm telling you, it doesn't sound. X videos. So they're going to say that, listen, Ranveer and Tehseen, X video. This is not a cool conversation because I'm trying to contest an election. Ranveer, you're spoiling my chances. X videos.
Wow, X videos. X tweets.
X tweets. We are making X tweets and X videos. Who's the daddy? I'm the daddy of X videos. Are we going to get banned?
No, not at all, bro. People want politicians just like this.
Exactly.
To be real dudes.
आप क्या करते हो? मैं रोज X वीडियो पे एक वीडियो अपलोड करता हूँ. मुझे आप वोट दीजिए.
Okay. मेरे ओपिनियंस X वीडियोस पर अपलोडेड है.
बिल्कुल.
Okay.
मेरा परफॉर्मेंस भी X वीडियो पे अपलोडेड है. मतलब देश की सेवा का. इसे गलत तरीके से मत सोचिए.
Cut to 2032. In 2023, Tehseen Poonawalla said this on a live podcast.
I know.
What if you're in the cabinet in 2032?
Then we'll do more X videos. We'll do more of it. We'll have your podcast on X videos as well. Why only on YouTube? We should have it on X videos as well.
Happy to.
And Elon, I think, has increased the size to 10.
Some shirtless podcast to begin with.
Listen, the two of us are fit. So if the two of us do it,
happy to.
We'll be like, we'll. You're not working out nowadays. You're being doing yoga.
Yeah. Once I get a little back into shape, we'll definitely do a stripped down podcast where it's just you and me in our boxer briefs, because apparently they are much sexier than just briefs or boxers.
Bro, this conversation.
That's what I've been told.
Track pants for me.
Okay, fine. Track pants.
But yeah. And nicely, and we do a nice thing,
but tight track pants. Okay.
This is now.
But we were talking about Abhijit Chavda.
Yeah, but I think he's phenomenal. I really do, and I like some of the stuff that he says, and it's very good. I like his overall analysis, even of his analysis of geopolitics. I may not agree with everything, but I do like his analysis. He has a point of view. And I also like his whole theory about science and physics. I do like that. And how he connects it to Indian traditions.
I'm assuming that his name has reached you through X.
I'm not sure how it has, but I do know of the videos. Yeah.
In your world, like, what are the social media platforms that you get your stuff from? Is it Instagram, Twitter, YouTube? Like, how do you understand what's happening in the outside world? How do people like you understand what's happening?
So YouTube is very restricted now for me. Only for podcasts. I think YouTube has now become a podcast medium, or like shorts and Instagram stories. It's that. So number one on Instagram. On YouTube is podcast by far. Then I think mine is sports at number 2. I'd like to catch up on my sports. And 3 would be any other content that I want, but maybe where the lifestyle, apart from politics or
Sure.
something, but or if I want something about international politics in more detail, then I would go through that. But number 1 is podcast today in YouTube. With X, what's happened is I think X is a very small market. It's a very niche market, but it's a very influential market because everybody who's somebody influential is on X now, X Twitter. So your opinions out there sort of create a sensation in the country. There's a good chance that you sometimes think that Twitter or X is the world or the universe, which is much larger than that. But yeah, that is the influential platform. And of course, then you have the Facebook and all, which is not so big. I use Instagram for a lot of my lifestyle and I do a lot of other stuff as well. So I use Instagram for a lot of my personal things, my personal stories, my personal posts. Also, the content I watch on Instagram is more personal and friends driven.
You don't get a lot of political content thrown to you by the algorithms?
I do, but since I don't go much onto it, I don't catch it so much. I also refrain from posting my political content on Instagram Reels or a post.
Fair.
I do it as my story, my TV debates, but I don't post that. My podcast, yes, but not my yeah. So I keep my Instagram in that sense about the brands that I'm endorsing or what I'm doing. So those things I use it for, and family.
Do you think the world of politics, and by that I mean active politicians, like we just spoke about Sachin Pilot, Milind Devra,
Correct.
do you think these guys also consume YouTube, consume X, and is that the outlet into the world, or do they have people around them who are feeding them with like information?
Both. You can't just rely on X or Twitter and YouTube. You have to have ground level. See, somebody like Sachin or Milind, because you took these names, they're very grounded politicians as well. For all the hype around their name, which are big names, they're very grounded. They win the elections and they come, right? So they have a big constituency. They talk to people. They are amongst people. So it's not just their problems are the problems that are on X or Twitter or on Instagram or YouTube. Their problems are actual very, very real world problems. Somebody may not have got ration. Somebody may need a police complaint to be made. The police is not taking a complaint. There is some corruption. There's some admission in a hospital. These are very, very real problems. Having said that, I also believe social media can be a healer and a bridge and be used for positive work as well. So during COVID, the second wave in particular, my wife and I used Twitter enormously to help people. And that was like the darkest recent phase of our lives. And it really worked because the way it was structured, it was easy for me to get in touch with bureaucrats, with ministers, get oxygen supplied, get oxygen arranged. Hospitals would tweet me where oxygen is running out and I could arrange it or my wife could arrange it. So I also saw the most humane side in the gravest human tragedy India faced since 1947. That is the second wave. Twitter in particular was a massive, Twitter and WhatsApp was a massive rescuer. And I can firmly say that the amount of lives that was saved because of what we managed to do, you won't believe it. We formed a WhatsApp group with Delhi doctors. We had Raghav Chadda on that group. We had a couple of Delhi DMs. We had some people also from the union government. And hospitals would just call me or WhatsApp me that, so we're running out of oxygen. We have 2 hours oxygen left, 1 hour. And we were just on WhatsApp. We had a dashboard. We were just tweeting, speaking to Inox and all these companies and getting the oxygen arranged. We were also refilling oxygen and we were doing it from other states because Delhi and Uttar Pradesh had a massive oxygen shortage in Haryana. The way this social media worked, the amount of beds I could arrange. One of your producers, a common friend of ours, we managed to sort of arrange the bed and it was, we managed a lot of things and that's how it was. So I've also seen the good side of social media. And if it can be harnessed correctly, I think it can do a lot of good for society, a lot of good.
Your voice does good for society, dude. You have a beautiful voice.
Thank you so much.
It's unrelated.
Thank you.
But you have a very nice voice.
But this came from the heart.
Yeah?
Yeah, this honestly came from the heart. I'm sharing something with you. Every time I speak, I say life is brilliant, Hakuna Matata. And I just, that one phase of that dark phase of that COVID second wave, I learned so much of gratitude because my family was safe, but I also saw so much of suffering. It broke my heart to see people you may know or you may know of standing in a line for oxygen. यार अरे oxygen बिक रहा था यार. मतलब आप सोचो हवा जो, if you believe in God, तो भगवान ने बनाया, अल्लाह ने बनाया. If you believe in universe, it's something it's a chemical. बिक रहा था यार, लोग लाइन में खड़े थे. If I 1 hour oxygen so my father can live more. Imagine people calling you at hope कि एक bed दे दो.
What went wrong there?
So many things. Of course, we didn't expect the second wave to come as it did because India had survived the first wave. So we were terribly underprepared. We didn't know what hit us in the beginning till we got together. The vaccination program, which everybody is praising now, was delayed. You cannot run away from the fact that it was delayed. Major democracies, except India, had placed the order for vaccines way in advance. India was slightly delayed on that. So there were a lot of factors that went wrong. We didn't ramp up the oxygen production enough. So we were scampering. They didn't anticipate it, so there weren't so many beds ready. And suddenly people were just, everyone you knew had COVID and it was reacting, and they were not making it or landing up in ICU. And it was such a scary period. The story is actually, like even now my hair is standing thinking about it. And imagine for fighting for the most basic thing like oxygen or a bed, and people are in the emergency room waiting for a bed. It's just a very dark phase for this country at that point. I genuinely believe it's the most grave human tragedy India faced since 1947. And a lot of viewers won't know of the human tragedy in 1947, but they may have some recollection of 2021. This was terrible. One time Monica's my wife, and this really broke our heart. Like, sex workers, right? They didn't have money. They didn't have clients. Now, I'm not getting the morality of it. कोई जा ही नहीं रहा था. पैसे नहीं थे. वो भूखे थे. And you know what really hurt me? I'm not doing politics. Forget every government. No government thought that, okay, the patient has come to a government hospital from a village. You have everyone's Aadhaar card, right? We tom-tom this Aadhaar digital revolution. We tom-tom it. Great. Could the DM or SDM or their office not call up and say, आपके पास खाना है खाने को? Because see, COVID, everyone was isolated. Hospitals were isolated. If you remember that phase, you couldn't go inside hospitals. But those patients have come from, say, in Pune, they've come from nearby villages, or Mumbai, they've come from nearby villages or cities that don't have big hospitals, right? So they had the government hospitals, or even in Delhi, AIMS or Safdarjung. But वो तो बेचारे गांव से आए, उनको खाना कौन दे रहा था? आप उनको खाना नहीं दे सकते? Tell me, what use is being the greatest superpower on earth if you can't give your fellow citizens food if they are hungry at that point? क्या ये DM नहीं कर सकता था कि कॉल करते यार आपको आधार तो था ना? Have you come? Do you need something? They were standing outside on the road. And I think all governments failed our citizens. There were ambulances were short, beds were short, everything. Everyone was helter-skelter. The friend that I'm talking about, who your producer and I know, is not somebody who is ordinary. He is known. Imagine for somebody like him had to plead for a bed. Why should you plead for a bed? Why does this country, why do you need influence for a bed? Please tell me. We are celebrating 75 years of independence. And as I said, why did Nehru say we became independent? To wipe our own tears. Why do you have to plead? Why should Tehseen or Ranveer make that phone call for a bed? Why shouldn't that bed be available to every Indian, irrespective of his or her status, religion or gender? Why do you need influence in that? Why do you need influence for oxygen? ये क्या है यार? ये गलत है.
In a city like Delhi.
In any place. But Delhi, of course, it was Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, it was North India was slightly worse. But even in other places, why? I'm not making this political. Why do you need it?
What's the learning from that phase?
You got to anticipate problems. You need to think 3 steps ahead. You need to get out of this hate. You stop using dividing people. क्या उस वक्त कोई सोचा था ये हिंदू का ऑक्सीजन या मुसलमान का ऑक्सीजन है? ये गे आदमी का ऑक्सीजन है या स्ट्रेट आदमी का ऑक्सीजन है? ऑक्सीजन की जरूरत थी ना आपको? ये whatever medicines, tocilizumab या remdesivir, ये कौन लाकर दे रहा है? Did anyone think that? So why does that thinking have to come in only during a crisis? Why can't we have that thinking throughout our period so that we grow and prosper faster as a country with unity? And the country came together. The Prime Minister did make a call of the country coming together. It did come together. And that's kudos to our country. But when we came together and we could overcome our differences in that crisis, why can't that be continued and that call continue today and we overcome our differences and move ahead together and get over these? You know what really hurt me is one call came So these 20-25 days, Monica and I didn't sleep at all. We never slept like even a minute. And there's this one call where this old man called me, and I knew him. And he had a request. He said, आप थोड़ा influence लगा दीजिए. पता है उसको किस चीज़ का influence चाहिए था? मैं झूठ नहीं कह रहा. I swear on anything that means something to me. He wanted influence कि उसके बेटे का last rites हो जाए थोड़ा जल्दी, क्योंकि उसके लिए 3 या 4 दिन का waiting था. Imagine a father is calling somebody like me कि last rites करवा दो. Why? There's so many bodies that were unclaimed. So we got the last rites done. We got it done. Couldn't the government do slightly better in this? Even in Delhi, both the state and the center. You could have done all of this. But I have to give credit. But one, I'll tell you, in this, I'm vehemently opposed to the Aam Aadmi Party and of course the BJP. But every time I would sort of call up the Chief Minister's office or Raghav Chadda or Sanjay Singh, at times we've sent oxygen in rickshaws to the hospital. This is one doctor whose father passed away because they ran out of oxygen, so he was doing manual oxygen. And he had another critical patient. His father died. And while his father died in front of him, he was saving other lives. And we sent oxygen in a rickshaw. In a rickshaw, bro. We are sending a mission to Mars, and I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of my country. We are sending now the mission to Moon. हम oxygen rickshaw में भेज रहे. It is wrong. And I don't fucking care if I'm criticized for it. I'm saying that this is wrong in my country. It is wrong.
Yeah. I think that was the common sentiment all over the country.
Yeah.
No matter how much one supported, say, the central government or the state government in Delhi, I think everyone stood up in that phase and said, listen, what are you guys doing? Why is this happening in our country to our citizens? Because everyone could empathize with the people who were losing the lives of their relatives.
The oxygen came in that train. Kudos. And I think Piyush Goyal played a role in that. Kudos. It came in the train. Train में oxygen आने का क्या मतलब है? How will it come inside the center? You need those trucks. And oxygen cannot be got in normal trucks. There are those special containers, right? The oxygen trucks that are, I forgot the technical term for it, that in which oxygen. Where were those trucks? Neither the state government nor the union government had booked those trucks. So, I mean, this was crazy mismanagement. And all across Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, it was terrible.
This brings me back to that same core thought of go to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is a lack of lubrication in those systems, which probably will happen if there are young, more agile people working with the government. And that's what I noticed a lot, man. Like the cultures decided a lot from the old guard, and there is no space for young people to express their thoughts, generally speaking. Of course, this is like a very generalized statement.
Yeah.
But I just feel if there were more young faces, more business-oriented mindsets there, we wouldn't see problems like this. Because a big part of running entrepreneurial ventures is to anticipate what can go wrong.
Yeah.
So if COVID is happening and you are anticipating that some sort of an apocalypse is coming, because if you rewind to the beginning of COVID in March 2020, we thought it's the apocalypse. So many people thought it's the apocalypse. I feel like maybe the government should have been even more prepared by 2021 August-ish. That's when this had happened, if I'm not mistaken.
That's true.
That was a fair amount of time.
They were celebrating we defeated the first wave. Internationally celebrating. It's not right. And where I agree with you, the bureaucrats who helped, DMs, SDMs, even the police officers were young officers. वो रात को phone उठा लेते थे. There's some fantastic officers, and I made such good friends. And just to Twitter, because they would get the energy that this is honest work happening, right? So you just somehow DM say, get the number and call up that, can you just oxygen in this hospital is desperate. They would pick up the phone. The senior ones were, but the young ones were odd at it. So many times in the night I would call up because the hospital had only 4 or 5 hours and they need to refill their cylinders urgently. They were waiting at the oxygen filling thing. Now the local police there is not going to allow somebody to go ahead in the truck because everyone's there. But this hospital is running out. So you have to call up the DCP or the thing. They please tell your inspector, it's this hospital, they've run out. So they would allow them to refill at least some cylinders and take while they stand in the line.
Do you think the core of all this is a lack of youth?
Lack of youth. Lack of youth.
Again, and I don't want you to just agree with me. Like,
No,
if
I
it's
do.
a juvenile statement.
No, it is lack of youth. It is lack of youth because youth anticipate. Youth basically are insecure. What is youth? Youth is insecure, right? अगर आप 60 साल के हो, आपने सब कुछ देख लिया जिंदगी, आप तो secure हो ना? How many people are secure? Youth is when you're insecure. And in insecurity, you sort of think about 2 steps ahead.
Cricket analogy. The GABA test. Young team plays more carefully, wins the match.
Wins the match.
Occasionally, it is moments for a young team to come through. And you don't see too many young... I think the youngest politician I know is probably Raghav Chadda.
He's brilliant, yeah.
Like, who else is like young and upcoming, out and out upcoming?
Raghav is good. He's phenomenal. And I really, really am fond of him. We started off together speaking on TV. He was, of course, always with Up, and he's done so well. And I'm so happy for him. I really am happy for him. Who else is really good? Priyanka Chaturvedi from Mumbai. She's, again, very good. A lot of good work she does. She's very good. Amongst the other politicians, you're talking parliament or?
The world of politics in general.
Shehzad, my younger brother. Though, again, I said we don't speak, but I think he's the best spokesperson along with Sudhanshu Trivedi that BJP has.
Who would you like to see from the non-political world in politics? Have you ever thought of this?
In politics? No, I haven't thought, but that's a great question. You know who I would think? I think Shah Rukh Khan would make an excellent, just simply because he has such brains. He's energy. Ranveer Singh.
Really?
Just look at his energy. Bro, the country needs energy. It's a young country. Shah Rukh, Ranveer have an energy to them. And you know, contrary to the perception, I think Ranveer Singh is super smart.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
master
phenomenal.
of branding.
Massive. And I think Shah Rukh, magnificent. Look at that brains, yeah? I mean, I'm sure Shah Rukh, even sleeping, he's thinking, what brains? People like Shah Rukh, Ranveer, non-political, I'm thinking. I think somebody from industry would be good. There is one on Twitter, now X, Harsh Goenka. Again, very empathetic man. Sometimes people troll him, they say slightly right. It doesn't matter to me. He's a very compassionate man. I think people who are also successful in life, if they come in politics, is good. Because फिर आपको लेना क्या है? आपने जो पढ़ना है पढ़ लिया है, जो कमाना है कमा लिया है, अब तो आपको देना है ना? So I think sometimes if that is also there, and then you come in with that attitude.
Do political parties go to some of these people and say, hey, come on?
I think the Congress did that in 2009. They had Nandan Nilekani. He's now, of course, he's helping the Prime Minister out with Aadhaar, but they got him on board. Raghuram Rajan was great for the Congress. I know that this government doesn't like him too much, but I do think Raghuram Rajan is one of the most intelligent economic brains India has.
Ever produced.
And I know there's a lot of criticism of him, but he is phenomenally sharp. And his roadmap for India's growth to do with climate change, I think if people read about it, it is mind-blowing. And with the climate change crisis that India is facing, if we can have growth related to climate change and be the solution for the world, our economy can actually do even more better.
You know, climate change is one of those topics I fear even bringing up on the show because people switch off. Like, for some reason.
I'm not going to get into details, but that by paper, I mean, what he said is mind-blowing.
You need people like that to talk about it on public forums like this.
Yeah.
Honestly. Okay, wait, I got to be a podcaster again.
Yeah,
and
too much of the...
Yeah. No problem. This is what it is, man.
Yeah, but I didn't want to get so emotional.
I appreciate you being this raw.
Yeah.
It also goes to show the human that you are and your actual motivations behind doing the job that you do. You're wearing a jacket right now.
Yeah.
People can't see the India flag you have tattooed on. It's okay. We'll probably take a photo of it.
Yeah, we'll take a photo. But the joke on that... So there's a story to this India flag. So I did Bigg Boss. So Bigg Boss mein kya hua ki they said ki you cannot wear the flag pin. Now the flag pin is my identity. And I've always worn the flag pin since about 2007, 2008. Almost got beaten up in India for wearing a flag pin, by the way. I'll come to that. So मैंने कहा भाई ये क्या हो गया? But they were reasonably... Viacom and Endemol were reasonably scared that in Bigg Boss अगर धक्का बिक्का लग गया किसी ने कुछ फेंका तो वो controversy हो जाएगी. So I anyways wanted a tattoo which had to be permanent and meant something to me. So I said, why not get the India flag? And now the joke is every time the BJP tells me that ab desh drohi ho, I said, talk to the hand.
Wow.
But yeah, that's...
Do people take you on because you're Muslim?
No.
Has that ever happened? Like, have they ever targeted you
I
for
have
being...
never been discriminated in this country. This is the greatest country in the world. I also understand that people may think I'm privileged. I'm not that privileged. I've struggled a lot in life. I've really struggled in life. But I've never been discriminated against. And that's my experience. And I know that people are insecure. I know the minor. I went to Supreme Court on lynching. I know there is a problem. There is a genuine problem. I'm not denying
You
it.
think in the interiors of the country?
No. In look at your RAW WhatsApp groups. Look at your society WhatsApp group. The hate. Of course, there is hate. Has it happened to me? No. But what's happened to me and what's very scary, I'll share this, is rape threats to my wife on my face.
On your
Threats.
face?
मैं बता रहा हूँ, मैं Bigg Boss से बाहर आया and the reason I'm only giving the hotel's description is because you'd expect it to be a secure place. So this is elite 5-star hotel opening, very elite, 7-star hotel opening. My wife, me, and this actor and his girlfriend were sitting, and I just gone to pick up a espresso for myself. And this husband-wife, come to me and say, we saw you on Bigg Boss and we see you on TV, selfie, and that's very normal. Selfie बिल्फी लिया उन्होंने. फिर हस्बैंड मुझे कहता है, आप देशद्रोही क्यों हो? नहीं, sorry, he said, आप मोदी जी के खिलाफ क्यों बोलते हो? So whenever this conversation in the night or at a restaurant hotel starts, I know that it's going to be a bad conversation, and I withdraw, right? So I said, sir, excuse me, I need to go back to my wife. His wife is standing next to him, and he says, people like you, I will rape your wife. He said this to me. और मैं वहाँ खड़ा था, I have an espresso glass in my hand, and I'm trembling in anger, in fear, and in that 1 second, you know, Einstein's theory of relativity, that 1 second to me was 1 hour. And in that 1 second, I thought very clearly, इसको मैं मारूंगा, तो am I privileged? इसको नहीं मारूंगा, तो am I not a good husband? Am I a wimp, for a lack of another word? It's not a right word to say, it's not politically, but am I a wimp? Am I not a strong husband, an alpha husband? मारा तो ये क्या बोलेगा, नहीं मारा तो क्या बोलेगा? What will, in that 1 second, how should I hit him? Should I throw my coffee on him? Should I take a plate and hit him? Should I just punch him? All of that in that 1 second. And I had anger in me, and I had fear in me, and I had everything in me in that 1 second. That 1 second paused. That 1 second seems like 1 hour. And I recollect that 1 second. Until the owner of the hotel who was standing behind me, coincidentally, also heard it and just caught me and said, take. And of course, they removed him. So this has happened a lot. It's not got to do with religion, but it's got to do with polarization. The amount of threats I got when I stood up for Nupur Sharma, the BJP spokesperson. And BJP didn't stand up for her. I did. I said, it's wrong. She said something. I don't agree with it. The case will go on. I don't have an opinion on that. But you cannot cut off someone's head. It's wrong. What nonsense, Sartan se juda. It's a terrorist slogan. You can't terrorize someone. Yeah, it's wrong is wrong. The amount of threats I got, it's crazy. And that's why I'm saying hate is not good. I've had somebody come to throw acid at me.
What?
Yeah. The police stopped them. It's obviously calmed down a lot, but been through all of these phases.
The core of this is because you have criticized the Modi government. The core of all this.
Some of it is BJP, some of it the other side. Because even with Nupur, the amount of threats I got is crazy. Delhi police had to write to the other local polices that there is a genuine threat. Because I was standing up for Nupur. You cannot cut her head. It's wrong. What is wrong is wrong. You cannot do it. She may have said something terribly bad. And I'm not getting into it. I am sorry. If this means my life goes, it goes. You cannot say I'll cut off a girl's head, yeah? What nonsense. Are we a banana republic? And what's wrong is wrong. There is no justification for hate.
Do you think this is the price you pay for being who you are?
Yeah.
Describe this price in your own words.
Again, I'm very privileged. So I only have gratitude. But there is genuine hate and anger. At times, people take what you say on television personally. Like the guy who wanted to throw acid thought I'm anti the country because I criticized the BJP. On the other hand, I've had somebody come to me at a 5-star hotel in Delhi. Again, the reason I'm saying 5-star hotel is because it's a secure venue. I was doing dinner with a diplomat, no less than a diplomat. When he comes and says, I want to cut off somebody's head, they just come and talk randomly. And the thing in that is, again, there's fear because somebody who comes openly and tells you I want to cut off a head. This is not the other side, Sartan Sejo. This is the other side. So I want to cut off XYZ politician's head because you are close to them. The fear is they'll just pick up a fork and hit you in the eye, right? You can do anything, right? You're this crazy guy, right? Normal people don't go and tell people I'll cut off your head, right? So you're scared that whatever you do later on, it's just one act of madness for that guy to get away. So there is genuine. Sometimes people get into your space. There are genuine times where, because I'm not in politics directly, right? So I love my family time. I love chilling with my wife. I love going out, lounges. There are people who try and pick a fight with you for no reason. Because it becomes viral on social media, or they'll want to pick a fight with you. So even if your table is pre-reserved, and which happened recently to me in a lounge, and it's pre-reserved, and I've been nice enough to let them continue till my guests come. And then they just want to start picking up a fight with you. Though it's your table reserved, and the owners are saying it's reserved since not yesterday, since about a week. They'll just want to pick up a fight because that becomes their moment of putting out that content. And the way it's structured will always be that the person who's slightly more popular is at fault. It doesn't matter which side of the divide you are. The horseshoe, the rowdy right or the loony left. The mob will go after the popular guy. And that's how it happens. So there's a lot of times people want to just pick up a fight for no reason.
Okay, Tehseen P. While I had planned a lot of other questions, I think it's a nice heavy podcast.
This is a good podcast, yeah.
How was your first podcasting experience?
Yeah, this is good.
Dude, with guys like you with this kind of a knowledge bank, I always feel like I've underperformed at the end of an episode like this. But the good news is that it leaves me with stuff to do for the next time, man.
Yeah, I'm told I always leave people wanting more.
Tehseen P. Daddy of New India.
Oh, that's a nice title.
Thanks, Daddy. Thanks.
Listen, that's going to turn out really. Listen, that is not going to turn out well for all the jokes we created. So the audience must know in what context that joke was. So now you'll have to tell them in what context it is, or it's not going to turn out well. And I'm telling you, we're going to be trolled so badly for it. So you please tell them the context. Right?
Tehseen's had a kid fairly recently.
5 months.
5 months. Just by the way, his kid's also a ladies' man because of this face and this genetic pool that Tehseen carries with him. But all in all, Tehseen's always been a daddy. Now he's just literally one.
No. So the context is... Listen, I'm not getting the context. This is going to be... I'm telling you, we're going to, for 2 days... We're actually going to build a bridge. We're going to get the right and the left together to troll us, which is quite cool.
Yeah,
I think that's quite cool. Both are going to get after us.
Yeah, happy to, bro.
Yeah,
the more the trolling, the more the publicity.
My boy and the daddy.
Tehseen P.
No beer, only biceps. And lots of love, lots of energy.
Lots of love, brother.
And I have to tell your viewers something. I've been very privileged to be in this room, in this podcast, and another place where he and I bonded and we had this amazing brotherly moment is on energies. And if ever any of you are privileged enough to do a podcast here, and I'm not saying this because I'm doing a podcast, this room has a phenomenal energy. And I think it's what plays the role in your success. The energy in this room when I came in, which is why I spent some time meditating before. This is unbelievable. And then I saw Bhairav.
Yeah, man. I honestly feel that I would like to believe that the world is becoming a better place gradually. It might get way worse before it becomes better. And if you truly want to live out your purpose on this planet, you have to allow higher powers to work through you. But more importantly, may the outcomes of that work be love and peace.
Totally agree. And if you don't agree with us, Daddy's going to be very upset.
TP is going to be back soon. TRS is going to be back soon. Thank you, bro.
Thanks, bro.
That was the episode for today, ladies and gentlemen. I know a lot of people will be extremely riled up because of the kind of things spoken about on this episode. I can't help you guys. There's going to be people from all ends of the political spectrum on TRS. So if Tehseen's opinions pissed you off, it probably just means that you're consuming a new format of media that might be breaking your echo chamber. At least try looking at it that way. Lots of love from Ranveer and the team. The political conversations have only begun. I'm trying to learn, and I hope that you're learning with me. Let's keep learning, because we're the future of India and we are going to take this country to the next level together. TP and Ranveer will be back soon.